All right, welcome to Senior Living 101, where we get expert takes on the environments where seniors live, work, play, heal, and thrive. I'm Trey King, your host, and just so you guys know, all of these sessions and all of our guests are members at SAGE, and all of these sessions are hosted by SAGE, the Society for the Advancement of Gerontological Environments. So if you want in on all this great mind action, give us a look at sagefederation.org and consider joining. Again, I'm your host, Trey King, and I'm joined today by the fabulous Shirah Kasongo Cahill, and we're going to talk about landscape design for aging. Shira, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So you said, my name is Shirah Kasongo Cahill. I'm a landscape architect. I work for Colliers Engineering and Design. And I always say like my first true passion was environments for aging. I think, like a lot of us, it gave our careers purpose and it helped us find some direction doing something that we find is really meaningful and high impact and matters for literally every human on earth. So that feels important.
Heck yeah.
Um, Non-divisive at all, very for everyone. And so, I'm excited to talk to you today. Thanks for joining me. I guess I've also been a proud Sage member for many years and have
Represent.
been Sage secretary coming to the end of my term, which I kind of can't believe it because I think I've been at least on the board since maybe 2020. So that's kind of an end of an era for me. So this is
Oh my
kind of
gosh.
closing up the loop.
Oh man. Well, congratulations.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's dig right in. So, you're a landscape designer specializing in spaces for older adults. Like what would you say are some of the most unique considerations that are floating around when in your mind when you're getting into a new project?
Well, I'd say for me, the biggest thing that I think of, I mean, I guess it's hard to characterize as the biggest, but one of the largest, most important things that I think of is actually getting people to physically access and use the outdoor spaces. What I've
Totally.
seen a lot is, beautiful spaces that are not accessible, beautiful spaces that are very infrequently used. Like I'll give an example of, a past project that we had where, something very common that I'd see, walking through um, a skilled nursing facility community, right? And finding the memory care on the top floor and a beautiful memory garden on the bottom floor of a tower and learning that, people are out there once or twice a year for a picnic because transport is so difficult and time consuming, and things
Yep.
like that. So those are the type of stories that I hear a lot. Um, Also things like, simple, really simple things like the doors are too heavy or we don't have, like accessible access buttons to let people out or the doors appear to seem like emergency access so people don't know that they can go out there unaccompanied in like an independent or an assisted setting. So things like that
Yeah.
are really the things that I look for. And so for me, I've been like people at Sage know this about me, I think. I'm pretty obsessed with the benefits of spending time outdoors. And I think it's pretty amazing that it literally is free medicine for all of us to spend time outdoors. There are a ton of physical and psychological benefits that are measurable for just getting outside and like the
Yep.
very sad truth that as we age we're outside less when we need it more. So for me it's more like that's sort of my first thing is how are people going to actually get there and what are the evidence-based strategies of making it so not only can people get there and is it easy for staff and caregivers, but it's also that folks are wanting to get out there because they can physically see it because there's anyway, we'll get to that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
But
no.
that's sort of my number one. And then after that, it's the quality of the space, the elements in the space, how the spaces are designed and detailed, et cetera.
Yeah, awesome. So yeah, my background is largely in skilled nursing design too. So like one of the big things we talk about is like, freedom, flexibility, choice. Like that's what makes a skilled nursing environment a home, right?
Mhm,
And
mhm,
it's really
mhm,
great to hear
mhm.
you say pretty much that exact thing extends to the realm of landscape design too, right?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
so I'd just be interested in hearing from you about like when I see memory gardens designed, I think I can think of a lot of like, maybe easy like goes no goes as far as like something that might be great in another garden, but maybe not in a memory garden. So I'd love to hear you just kind of hash out some of the like big considerations for designing at different levels of care.
Sure.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
So I guess, starting with memory care, and I guess I'll say, you know, our our profession is about lifelong learning, right? So I feel like every time we have a project, we learn more things.
Yeah,
So I'm sharing what I know, but if anybody hears stuff and I haven't mentioned something, or please reach out to me. I'm always looking for people to collaborate and learn new things. Um, but from my experience, in terms of the different levels of care, you asked, we'll start with, I guess, memory care and certain
yeah,
considerations. I think it's the same thing. I mean, that's very different because as you move through the cycle of dementia, obviously you have a different physical state, right? Like maybe in early stages, you like still have good depth perception and you can still see pretty well. And then at the end stages, you're not seeing the same things, right? So things like views and things like that are become different considerations. Um, I would say again for memory care, it's looking at one, the ease of getting out there. So transport is really, really important. Views from inside the
yeah,
building so that caregivers can easily see the people that are outside, and make it so if there is limited staff, you can still get people outdoors and using the space. I mean, obviously, there's the things that people all know, like having a walking loop and things like that. However, I try to not just make a memory care garden with a big circle walkway and call it a memory care garden. Um,
yeah.
I think
That's
that,
awesome.
for the circle, like for the walkways, yeah, you need to have walkways, but you also need to have destinations and axes at the end of those walkways so people are actually have a reason to walk through the space.
Yeah,
We have to think about having certain program out there that have been found to be therapeutic, like having therapeutic horticultural programs in places where activities can take place. Um, and mitigating for things like environmental comfort, such as, glare, um, uh, uh, being able to experience things that are, multisensory are very important. But that's not just when you're in the space. I think a lot about the transition from inside to outside. So if
yeah,
you're coming from a darker outside environment, you really don't want to transition to a very, very bright, um, outside. Did I say inside? If you're coming from a darker inside environment, you don't want to be transferring to like a very bright and glary outside environment. So I think about those transition points a lot, not only how they feel as you're coming out of them and mitigating for those harshness that we can have in the environment, but also making sure that you have something at the end of that view shed. Like, why are you coming out? Um,
yeah,
one of the first things I do when I'm designing a memory care space, I think this translates to a lot of different exterior spaces for a lot of different populations, is finding spaces that are social spaces, semi-social spaces, and private spaces. So even in a tiny space, I try to divide those areas up so that you can find a place where you might want to be quietly alone and just, maybe be on a seated swing and move, or, on a gliding, safe, movement based seat, where you can kind of be alone, other places where you might be able to experience and kind of observe folks walking by, and other places where you might be able to interact and engage in something like a horticultural therapy program.
yeah,
So those are some of the things I think about. Of course, also I think about safety. We put up, we want to make sure that there's no sharp edges, even though I do typically design with square tables because I find them to be much more flexible so that you can have them there for intake discussions, but you can also push them together to do activities. And you could also like do stuff that if you really make a beautiful space, maybe the operator wants to host something for their foundation, or they want, you know what I mean, to create
yeah,
space flexibility
totally.
they can be used. Um, so, there's those safety things. You want to have like grab bars around the space so that people can walk on their own. Um, what are other things? If the operators are open to this, because I know that sometimes, you know, uh, there is like a infection component and like a bacteria component of having any water features, but frequently I'll find that like self-contained water features are something that people can have
Yeah,
pretty easily, and they can
yep,
maintain pretty easily, and they can like create a nice sort of like therapeutic sound when you're out in the garden. Another thing that we've done a lot in memory care spaces and is put out small speakers, but puts like lots of speakers out as opposed to just a few that you might need to have a little bit louder. You can have many out in the
yeah,
full garden so you can keep them all at sort of a soft setting. Things like that, so it's like what obviously what we do at the very beginning is we talk to the stakeholders, right? We're going to be talking to the
Yeah.
operators. We're going to talk to the nursing staff. If we can, we'd love to talk to families, caregivers, and learn from them what they need and what they'd like to see out there. We do a lot like big listening sessions at first to understand program capacity, all of those
Yep.
things. And then we start to put together those these spaces that are unique. Obviously, all everything has to be all editable, non-toxic. You'd be surprised, even like sitting on design competition juries. I've seen a lot of memory care spaces that do have toxic plants in them, and I'm like, that's number one.
Oh man,
You
yeah.
know what I mean? This is a beautiful space,
Yep.
but that thing is poison. So it's like, you know, there's the obvious ones too. I would say for other levels of care, especially moving into IL, and I say this a lot, I firmly believe that we should be designing to keep like purposefully, if we can. Obviously, we can't control everything with the environment, but we should be designing to try to keep people in IL as long as possible, right? Like you can be in IL until you die if you remain healthy. There's no reason why you need to move through different levels. Like I say, my grandmother is going to be 100 this year. She's going to be 100 and not next year in March. And
Oh
she
my
still
gosh.
lives in independent living. And it's because her environment really fosters um, activity, social interaction. She gets outside every single day. And I've found that one of the tricks for that, especially for the population as you get a lot older, is getting to people to easily program in really little short walks that they don't notice
Yep.
that they're taking. So it's not like, oh, I have to walk 15 minutes to the core amenity space. So maybe I do it once a month because my friend and I it's like it takes me a minute and a half. There's three benches on the way. There's three ways to do it. I can do it in the shade. I can do it in the sun. I can do it covered. I can do it open. And guess
Yeah.
what? I do it several times every day. And those are these small things that keep me healthy, you know?
Yeah. No,
So
that's
like
so
that's
awesome to hear you like say
mhm.
because we do like that on the architecture side we're talking about the same thing in terms of journey mapping like from I guess in even in terms of number of steps from
Right,
your home to dining, your home to commons, your
right,
home
right,
to
right.
and that includes outdoor, recreational walking as well, I'm sure. Yeah,
Exactly.
that's so
And
cool. That's awesome.
yep, yep. And like you bring up a good point. So like, yeah, there's like recreational walkers and then there's transportation walkers. And I think as we age, we transition more to transportation walkers. I don't have any real stats for that, but it sort of feels like that from talking to folks, you know? It's like
Yeah.
you get
Yeah.
to a point where yeah, you're doing the walking challenge and you're doing all of those things. And then you get to the point that you just don't kind of feel like doing that kind of stuff anymore, but you will are happy to live your life and be social. So
Yeah.
if we're able to create those spaces, I always say I think it's we should be designing our circulation spaces as thoughtfully as we design our destination spaces because those are the spaces we want people to also spend time. So like that's really important. And also you mentioned like you guys do sort of your journey walking, your journey paths or however journey mapping.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I think with senior living is where I work most collaboratively with interiors and architecture because we can't do it in silos. It's impossible, right? Like in urban design,
Totally.
you might be able to do that. You might be able to like design a really awesome performance hall and somebody does a great building and it's amazing inside and then you do an awesome plaza outside and that works, right? But for senior living, that doesn't work. You must design the spaces together because you have to
Yeah.
be thinking about that fluid access. And without it, it just doesn't work. So
Totally. Yeah, I totally agree. And actually, like to your point, maybe this is even like kind of an age independent idea. Like I just moved to Chicago and
mhm,
we're loving it. We just moved from a place where I have to drive 30 minutes to get anywhere to I can
mhm.
walk, 14 minutes to like my
Oh
local
yeah.
bakery.
Oh yeah.
And
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I will say it's been the real problem is my bank account's problem because I love I love that kind of stuff. It's got me so much more engaged in my community. It keeps me so much, I mean, frankly, like base level of fitness. If I'm not going to Orange Theory, it's
100%.
it's incredible. So yeah, great to kind of hear that play out in design for aging as well. That's one of the common threads through a lot of these conversations is like,
Oh,
design for
100%.
aging is designed for everyone.
For
It's awesome to hear
humans,
you say
right?
that.
It's designed for humans. It's
Yeah.
good urban design. I always say good urban design is sort of I don't like to say tricking, but I use the word tricking. It shouldn't be tricking. It should be a
No,
different
I
thing.
like
But
it.
great urban design, I think, is tricking people into living healthier lives without realizing it, right? It's not saying
Yeah,
to everybody, I suddenly want you to have this, fitness. Not everybody's going to want to do that. Not everybody wants to take a sitter size class. Not everybody wants to take a spinning class. Not everybody wants to do that. However, like most people enjoy just living and interacting with their community. My dad, who is a senior, he's going to be 80 next year, which is like absolutely crazy. He's
wow.
not like a fitness guy. And when I lived in Mexico for a long time. And when he lived down there with my mom, my parents moved down there for a year while I was there. And they lived close to a market. They lived in a really walkable part of town that was close to a market. My dad doesn't like to do exercise, but he does love to buy groceries every day. Like I like make dinner from the groceries he buys that day. And he likes to go to the market and he likes to haggle.
Yeah.
So he would do that and he lost a ton of weight when he was in like without, you know what I mean? He
Yeah,
was more fit because of his environment. And those are the things that really get me going because I'm like, the environment is very powerful. It's like the World Health Organization defines health. I can't remember because I don't have these are the slides that I should have had up that would be great, but it's like three or four petals. Um, and one of those petals is the environment. It's like, it's
yeah,
a big deal, right? It's like,
yeah.
it's not a small thing. I know we always say like we can't solve everything with design and we can't, but it's also not a small thing. It's a big piece of the pie that we're dealing with. And it's a responsibility to think about doing it as thoughtfully as you can.
Totally agree. Yeah, no, that's so cool to yeah, kind of hear it like kind of full circle on that. Yeah. So I do have one more sort of trick question for
Sure.
you. Address the elephant in the room. Yeah, what do we do when it's cold? You know, what I think one of the biggest things that I'll like if I'm on a, post-occupancy evaluation or a punch list. Yeah, to your point earlier in this call, we talk about that outdoor space that gets used like twice a year or only when the weather's nice. What
Mhm,
can we do
mhm,
to,
mhm.
do exactly what you were saying earlier, like empower people to sort of passively uptake and start using these spaces more.
Right. Again, like, yeah, this is like a huge pet peeve of mine because I live in Rochester, New York. We do work like nationally where I am. So I work in all climates. However, we do a ton of work here regionally. And yeah, that really annoys me. That really, really bothers me because there's just been so many projects that I've been on that people don't want to spend the money or invest in spaces that are high quality because of that. But evidence doesn't support it. Evidence doesn't
Yeah,
support that elders won't spend time outside when they're cold, especially if they're people that are from cold climates. Evidence supports
yeah,
that they won't spend time outside if it's perceived as unsafe and there's obstacles, right? So, like,
yeah,
obviously, you're not going to have the same. This is where you get like the destination space, circulation space. So, like, we didn't even really get to designing these destination spaces, like dining and lifestyle spaces and spill out spaces and how those spaces can be successful. And that's like a whole nother conversation. And those are really, really important spaces where you can, eat outside and watch your community interact and have these like really great socializing opportunities. However, the circulation and the movement and the being physically outside to
mm,
access spaces, that can happen all year long.
yeah,
Right. So like I'm not like suggesting that, we're putting like sled hills right in our CCRCs. However, I am saying that to maintain that circulation and that outside access to maintain healthy circadian rhythms, to actually like physically see the sky, to like physically be outdoors, that can happen all year. And it really has to do with how you design those spaces, that choice, right? So if I only have
yeah,
one way of getting someplace and it's outside exposed to the elements, I don't have a lot of choices. And depending on how
yeah,
that's designed and how long it is, I might not have a lot of choices. I'm a big fan of covered walkways, right? I think that if you're able to find ways to sort of connect and stitch your campus together so that you can make your way spaces under like and be protected from the elements, both shade in the summer, but also some people like walking outside when it's rainy because you can smell the wet pavement, you can smell the grass, and you can hear the sound. And in the
yeah,
wintertime, there's evidence that supports that people aren't deterred by the cold if they're used to it. They just don't want to encounter icy puddles, pounds like mounds of snow, things like that. So you have to think about things like your pedestrian infrastructure, the quality of that infrastructure, the interaction between, humans and vehicles, how things are, if you have covered spaces, where the rest stops are, how the drainage is designed, ensuring that things are flowing off and they're not collecting and creating obstacles. You have to design for realistic maintenance of the operators that you're working with. You have to make sure that they can maintain the spaces that you're designing. And I would say, like, for spaces that we're seeing more that are more like mixed use in an urban setting, you have to understand the context. Like, I've seen a lot of projects that are like, this is amazing. It's urban, but it's on a big hill. And it's like, you know what I mean? It's like, well, it looks accessible from the sky, but if you're walking around, it doesn't feel that way, right? So, like,
Sure. Yeah.
and I've worked on, one, it was an affordable senior project that was in sort of like an established walkable village, and it was amazing during the summer months. And we did a bunch of engagement with the folks there, and we learned like that they actually, because we do that, like the journey mapping and stuff like that with folks too in the beginning
Yeah.
and after, to
Nice.
understand, especially with like repositioning projects, if it is a campus project, if you want to understand like where people are walking, where they're going, and where they're just not going, and trying to understand like, weird, nobody walks there,
Yeah.
why, right? In this particular project, that was a senior affordable project that was in an established village that was really walkable. It was close to a main street. To get to that main street, you could walk through a linear park. It was really great. But in the winter, it was like, we walked around there in the winter. It was paved and like beautiful salted, great for the length of the property. And then after that, it was like massive, icy, scary. Like, we like, a young able-bodied
Yeah.
person couldn't walk on it and feel safe, right? So
Yeah. Wow.
um you can't fix everything, but I think that, like, as you're looking and you're looking at sites and you're helping, to the developers that you're looking at select sites, these are the things that we can look at and we can evaluate to try to choose spaces that stay accessible, um, to the best that we can, throughout the year. And if we're designing enclosed environments that are campus environments, we can think about, we can really control it then, and we can really think about it then. So, so yeah, that
Totally.
really bothers me. It really annoys me.
Yeah.
Plus, I would also plug that there's three usable seasons, right? I mean,
Yeah.
there's like summer, fall, and spring. There's three seasons that it's nice to be outside. Some of us have a longer winter. But there's even
Yeah.
evidence out there that shows that some folks get, social emotional benefits from living in the colder climates, and they stay in the colder climates. And even things like shoveling snow to like an older age keeps you in shape and gives you
Yeah.
pride and makes you feel like you're still strong and helps you connect with your neighbors because you help each other out. And there's different benefits to it too. It's not all bad.
Yeah.
So I'd say, you know, the benefits vastly outweigh, the obstacles. Obviously, you can't be outside every single day, but if you can make it more during the year, there's real benefits to that.
Yeah, no, and like to bring back what you said earlier about like kind of tricking people to use outdoor spaces more often, like maybe people are a lot more open, once it's part of their daily routine. Like if they're
Right.
if they're exposed regularly to like transportation based walking instead of okay, yeah, maybe you're not going to go to the like out, the what do you call it, the drive-in theater in the middle of winter because it's like less of a vibe, but you're still gonna want to go and like visit your neighbors, right? Like that's part of what, again,
Totally.
like it's what
Totally.
makes the city so great in the winter. Like you're a little village and
You
yeah,
can still
sure.
do it, right? You can still do it. So I think it is more transportation based in the
Yeah,
winter, right? There's like less like sitting, spending lots of hours outside, type things that you can do.
yeah,
But you can still do it. I mean, I even think about it for myself. Like sometimes I realize I haven't gone outside in too long in the winter, and it makes me feel like sad. You know what I mean? Like sad with like
yeah,
a double D, like, you know what I mean? Like the, what is it, seasonal whatever,
I,
depressive disorder. Like, you
yeah,
can feel that here once you've had a few months and you realize that all you've been doing is transferring from a house to a parking garage to an office building to a parking garage to a house to a, you know what I mean? It's like
yeah,
having like, and I'll start to force myself, like, I got to get out inside and take a walk. Like, I know that this will help me. I like plug this all the time. Like, I need it.
yeah.
We all need it. Right. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, totally. And I love that like there's another strong parallel with architecture too. Like some as those kind of quiet activities of daily living, like, your daily commute to the grocery store,
Right.
on your end. Like I love the sort of parallel there where we're talking about like, hey, how many steps and how nice is your trip from your room in this building to the gym and like how is that going to
Yep.
make you use the gym? Like we're having the same conversations just at different scales and about
Right?
slightly different things. It's so exciting. Yeah, really great to
100%.
hear.
And it's really exciting if you measure it. Like I did a presentation several years back, I think I don't know, can't remember, with my grandmother where I tracked her movement around her campus to see how much she was walking. And at the time, I think she was 94. And she was walking like about 100 miles a year, getting outside every day, and now she's going
Wow.
to be 100, and she has chronic conditions just like all older adults, right? I mean,
Yeah.
she's got now advanced kidney disease, she has Crohn's disease, she has she has things, especially the kidney disease makes it tough for her sometimes to walk on her own. However, she still walks on her own and
Yeah.
walks every single day. And now she's walking like closer to like 80 something miles a year. I can't remember, but like every year I sort of check in with her. I do a quick interview and I sort of update the stats because I think it's really interesting. And she likes to do it and she's like amazing. So we chat and she's still getting outside every single day. Physically, she's outside every single day. So um I think that that's pretty amazing,
Yeah.
and I find it very inspiring for the way I think about designing spaces, not just for older adults, but also for just like all humans when we're doing urban design and planning. Because I am in a planning
Yeah.
group here, so we do
Yeah.
both planning work and we do landscape architecture work. So
Yeah. Well, awesome. Well, yeah. Hey, thanks so much for the conversation today, Shira.
yeah.
This was amazing. And to those of you who are listening quietly in the background, or have logged into the website, yeah, and you want to learn more, check out our Sage website, sagefederation.org. You can find this and a bunch of other episodes on the events page. And you can also find some information about how to join. So, yeah, if you want to hang out with us a little more, or eventually show up on one of these, yeah, just uh, give us a buzz. My email is tking@hksinc.com. Feel free to shoot me a message anytime. And I think Shira might have her contact information on our
Yeah.
site too, if she approves. Are you good with that?
Yes, I'm totally good with that. And I would say, I don't know
Incredible.
if anybody can see my, because I can see your Trey King, your name there at the bottom left. So my email is very, very long, but you can see it there. So it's Shira.Kasongo Cahill at collierseng.com. So it's like at every sign-in sheet, my emails like this much, and the emails are so long. But yes,
Oh
please,
man,
please, please reach out to me. Like I said, I'm very open to sharing resources. I have like a ton of scholarly articles and different publications and stuff like this that I've collected over the years through doing a lot of literature review for different stuff. So I'm always happy to share that. And I'm always very open to people who want to share things with me. So if you guys have things that you think that would be helpful for me to know, please share that as well. Obviously, very welcome.
incredible. Well, yeah. So feel free to contact either one of us on the Sage Federation website, and looking forward to next time. Thanks again so much, Shira. It was
All right,
great to
thank you,
talk.
Trey. This is great.
All right.
Yeah, I
All
appreciate
right.
it. All right,
Bye.
have a good day. Bye.